nothing is wrong. We're simply correctly oriented to winter. We're practicing quiet reorientation, learning how to know where we are in a very literal and embodied sense before we ask ourselves where we're going or whether we're ready to go anywhere at all. The calendar turns, the numbers change, the language of beginning is everywhere, and yet the body doesn't always follow. Light is still low, energy conserving. The nervous system for many people is oriented inward, whether they want it to be or not. And much of what ended last year, conversations, decisions, grief, fatigue, has not actually finished settling. At the same time, there's often an unspoken expectation in the air that something should now be clear, that direction should announce itself, that desire should be obvious, that motivation should return. And when that doesn't happen, it's easy to assume something inside us hasn't organized properly yet, that we've missed a moment or failed to take advantage of the fresh start we're told January offers. But often, nothing is wrong. Often, we're simply correctly oriented to winter. So instead of asking what's wrong, we can ask a different question. Recently, I drafted an email. It named something clearly. It set a boundary. It corrected an assumption. It was measured. The sentences were clean, the tone not inflammatory. And yet, when I read it aloud, which I always do when something matters, my jaw was tight. A pressure at the hinge of the jaw, a slight clenching behind the molars, a narrowing behind the eyes that shortened the breath. It would have been easy to override that. The language was solid, but the body had already registered something. So instead of asking, is this email correct? I asked, where is my body holding tension? Jaw, throat, upper chest. The jaw told me something was braced. The throat told me something was anticipating pushback. The chest told me something was preparing for defense. Now here is a distinction that matters. The content of the email was not the issue. The charge was. If it's still filled with emotional charge when you send it out, it isn't done. It means the emotional and energetic charge in your body has not been metabolized. When there is still charge, the energy underneath the words is defensive. Defensive energy transmits. So the work is not to soften the truth. The work is to locate and clear the charge in your body. Let the writing show you what you haven't finished processing. And while the body is holding that, the mind tries to stay ahead of it. When the environment or the body feels unstable, nervous systems do what they have always done. We try to stay ahead of things. We monitor, anticipate, stay vigilant. We watch messages, news, notifications, and even weather reports. Often we check our phones before we even realize we've reached for them. The mind asks the same question. Has something changed? This isn't a failure or lack of discipline. It's simply our nervous system trying to stay oriented in an environment that shifts quickly. Because when attention is constantly monitoring, it rarely has a chance to rest. And intuition requires attention that isn't already occupied. What we're actually practicing is something closer to vigilance. Vigilance looks like attention on the surface, but internally it feels different. It shows up as rereading a message to check someone's tone, mentally rehearsing a conversation that hasn't happened yet, refreshing a news feed again and again to see if something has changed, tracking other people's moods in the room, anticipating reactions before you've even spoken. Physiologically, it's much closer to the nervous system preparing for disruption, a subtle version of fight or flight scanning. Tracking change consumes a surprising amount of cognitive energy, which means there's very little perceptual space left for anything quieter. You may recognize this feeling. The mind keeps circling the same questions. Did I miss something? Did something shift? Should I prepare for a reaction? And while that monitoring is happening, our attention is fully occupied. It's like trying to hear a whisper while standing next to a busy road. The signal may be there, but the surrounding noise makes it difficult to perceive. Attention and vigilance are not the same thing. Attention observes, notices, and is curious. Vigilance monitors, anticipates, and remains on call. Attention allows experience to unfold, while vigilance tries to stay one step ahead of it. This is what I mean by the still point, a monthly private audio for intuitive practice subscribers. Not something to keep up with, a place to return. For orientation, for settling, and for the kind of listening that happens when nothing is insisting that you move. If you want to go deeper, you can find the full Still Point episodes at Intellect and Intuition.